We are now in the second week of our 6-week annual Journey program. I'll say more about what that is during the service. And so I guess at that point we'll just get started with an opening song. Will you rise for that?
Our first song is number 110, The Lord Most High, and the minimum is 8 turns here, so look out there. 110.
And Daniel said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "There is a God in heaven who reveals secrets." Let us pray. Lord God in heaven, we thank you for this day and for the warmth of the weather that has returned. Help us as we turn to you and open the pages of your word to see the next thing about ourselves that we can most usefully address, so that we can go forward to loving you and loving our neighbor a little more today than yesterday, and a little bit more tomorrow than today. And it's for all that you do for us. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven so on the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. O Lord, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Amen. Please rise. If you'll open your worship brochures, at the top of the second page is our recitation that we'll say together this morning, taken from Daniel chapter 2. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "There is a God in heaven who reveals secrets. He will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. It shall stand forever."
Okay. So, today I want to start by talking with you about things that you want, things that you need, and things that you have a right to. So, what's something that you might want or wish for? A horse. I wish I had a horse. Okay? And what is something that you really need, you truly need? You couldn't live without it.
A house.
I need a house to live in. It's going to be hard to live out there in the snow without a house, right? Or how about the air that you breathe? We need certain things, right? Or we can't live. And how about something that really the civil law says you have a right to this? It's a little bit harder maybe for the young people. Yeah. Freedom, okay? Like you have the freedom to say what you would like to in the newspapers or whatever. We have freedom of speech, for example, in our country. So we have different freedoms. And those are things that we have, the civil law says, you have a right to those things. And what's interesting is sometimes it can become confusing and you're not exactly clear what is something that you wish for versus something that you truly need versus something that you have a right to. So let's take the horse, for example. We wish we had a horse. But do you really need a horse? Do you need a horse? Or you can't live? No, that's a wish, that's a want, that's a desire. But you don't have to have a horse, right? And do you have a right to have a horse? I have a right to have a horse. You have the ability to have a horse. If you can buy a horse, you have that freedom, right? But I deserve a horse. Get me a horse because I deserve it. Is that right that you know? Oh, you're a farmer. Okay. So yes. You're an Amish farmer and you need a horse. Okay. Absolutely you would. Okay, but I'm going to step past that comment and move on with what I'm saying. Okay? Sometimes in our world, it's hard to tell the difference between what's a want or wish and what's a need and what's a right. And so the human tendency sometimes is for wants to become needs. I want a horse, I need a horse, and I have a right to a horse. Wants to become needs, needs become rights. And you have to watch out so that confusion doesn't happen. Okay? Well, to illustrate this, I have a little activity, actually a very big activity up here today. It's a simple one. There's just a lot of equipment. I need 2 volunteers who can come forward. I need 2 volunteers, okay? You can come forward and stand over here behind this table, please. And I need 1 more, okay? You can come over here and have a seat on this comfortable couch. All right? Make yourself comfortable there, okay? And while you're at it, here, pick up that remote control. Thank you. All right? Here's your script that you're going to be using, and here's a microphone. When you turn the microphone on, you're going to hold it here, not here, or we won't be able to hear you. Exactly. Okay. And over here we have someone. He is sitting on a couch, very comfortable. I meant to get a coffee table for him to put his feet up on, but I didn't. I forgot that piece here. Make yourself comfortable. Okay. And here's his couch. Over here we have someone who is going to put on this smock. Okay. There she goes. She can tell already she's been working. All right. And she has, can you use this to put your hair up? Or some of your hair? Or you put your hair up, but get it out of the way while we're cooking. I think it's tough. I have trouble with that too. I don't use these very often. It snapped, it kept falling out of my hand. Can you grab your hair and pull it in a bun? Just grab it together. There you go. You have to right use this. Put this right here. There we go. All right, there. Now she's in the kitchen. She's ready to go. And you're making cookies here. You have a spoon and you're stirring a big pot of chili. Why? Because you have decided, I want to have a Super Bowl party this afternoon. And there's a lot that I've got to do. I've got to make a big pot of chili. Here, stir the chili, please. Okay? There's a big pot of chili that I've got to make. I've got these cookies that I've got to make for hors d'oeuvres. And would you be willing to just put a little bit of this flour on your cheeks, maybe? Don't worry, I've got a towel. You can be able to wipe it off. Just put a little bit of flour on your cheeks so we see that this girl is really working. She is slaving away. And what I haven't told you yet is that when she's done with the chili and the cookies, she's got to vacuum the whole house.
I mean, for some reason, she thinks she has to vacuum the whole second floor as well as the first. I don't know why. She's got it in her mind. Okay? And after that, she needs to go around and do all the windows. Okay? Then she needs to also wash the kitchen floor. Okay? So there's just lots that she has to do. Right? And as she's working away here in the kitchen, getting ready to vacuum, getting ready to wash the windows, etc., look at this. This is her brother over here. He's sitting down watching the pregame show for the Super Bowl. And it's hours before the Super Bowl starts, and he is comfortable, right? Now, each one of these people is starting to look across the way at the other, and they've got some things that they're thinking. Can you please pick up your script and your microphone? And will you read into that microphone number 1?
I have so much to do. Maybe my brother will help me. I wish he could.
I wish he would. Okay? Now, as time goes by, she keeps working in the kitchen, making her cookies and stirring her chili, and another thought comes to her mind. She says, number 2,
In fact, I really hope he will help me.
I hope he will help me. She continues to work, and number 3 comes into her mind.
He'd better get off his lazy backside and help me, or at least I won't give him any of the stuff I'm
He
making.
better get off his lazy backside and help me, and if he doesn't, I'm not going to give him any of the stuff that I'm making. And finally, number 4.
He's a jerk.
Oh, this could never happen in a happy family. Let's step in and let's hear what's going on in this guy's mind over here, Mr. Comfort. Mr. Comfort King. Go ahead. What's number 1 there?
I wish my sister would bring me some milk and cookies.
I'll bet that would feel good with your house here and your television. Yeah, okay. Number 2.
In fact, I really hope she will.
Oh, okay. Number 3.
I can't believe she's not thinking of me and bringing me some milk and cookies.
Can't believe it. Number 4.
She's a jerk.
Again, how could this possibly happen in a happy family situation? But do you see what's going on? We're going to move away from talking about wants becoming needs and needs becoming rights. And today I want to really focus on these 3 over here. Wishes, hopes, and expectations. Is it all right that this girl who's going to put on a fabulous party for her friends who are coming over today, is it all right for her to wish that her mother would notice and help her out? Is that all right? It's all right to wish that. Is it all right to even picture that in her mind? Oh, I hope he will. I can just see him getting off his backside and coming and helping me. Is that all right? Sure. And how about when she says, in fact, he darn well better? Does he have to come over and help her? Does he have to? No. And she ends up thinking he's a jerk because he's doing his thing over there. And meanwhile, over here, same sort of thing. Gentleman lounging over here, he wishes something. He kind of hopes, wouldn't it be nice if she would bring me some milk and cookies? Oh, she'd better. So what's the problem here? What's the problem? They're not helping each other. And on a more adult level, a wish is turning into a hope, is turning into an expectation. I expect them to, and that leads each of them to think the other one is a jerk. My goodness, if we were only careful to say, yeah, I do wish, but I see he's not getting off the couch. I can't expect him to. It's not his job to come help me. It's not her job to serve me on the couch. It would be nice if she did. You see, so you need to keep things, realize what's a wish and what's a hope, and when things are starting to become expectations, all right? Now, you can wipe off your face there and take off that dusty schmuck, all right? And just leave it on the table, and you can go back to your seat. Thank you so much for your help. Now, that's illustrating the point, and there is a story. Thank you so much for your help. There's a story in the Word that talks about these things.
that we just illustrated. And that is part of the story of Daniel. Last week, Mr. Mack talked about Daniel and King Nebuchadnezzar. And this week, we're moving on and taking the next chapter of that. And in this story, King Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. And it's troubling him. He wakes up in the night and he's troubled by what he's seeing. He doesn't understand. What does that dream mean? And so he wants and wishes that people in the kingdom would please tell him what his dream meant. And he hopes that they'll be able to. But then something strange happens. He starts to expect them to. And he actually then says to them, he doesn't say you're a jerk. He says, if you don't tell me what my dream is about, he says to his wise people, if you don't tell me what my dream was and what its interpretation is, I'm going to burn your house down with fire. And I'm going to cut you in pieces. Oh my goodness. Okay? So let's read that story and then we'll conclude. Now in the second year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was so troubled that his sleep left him. Then the king gave the command to the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said to them, I have had a dream, and my spirit is anxious to know the dream. Then the Chaldeans spoke to the king, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will give the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, my decision is firm. If you do not make known to me the dream and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces and your houses shall be made an ash heap. So imagine waking up in the morning and your sister says to you, I had a dream last night. Can you tell me what it was? How can you tell what the dream was? The king is asking them and demanding them, you must tell me what I dreamt about. And if you don't, I'm going to burn your houses down and cut you in pieces. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time, that he might tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will be in the latter years. Your dream and the visions of your head upon your bed were these, that you may know the thoughts of your heart. You, O king, were watching, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose splendor was excellent, stood before you, and its form was awesome. The image's head was made of fine gold, its chest and arms were made of silver, its belly and thighs were made of bronze, its legs were made of iron, and its feet were made partly of iron and partly of clay. You watched while a stone was cut without hands, which struck the image on its feet of iron and clay and broke them in pieces. Then the iron and clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were crushed together and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors. The wind carried them away, and no trace of them was found. And the stone that struck the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This was your dream. Now I will tell the interpretation of it before the king. And then he goes on to interpret what this dream is all about. And then he says about the stone that was cut out, he says, inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and it shall stand forever. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, truly, your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret to me. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him great gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief administrator over all the wise men of Babylon. So Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. So there's King Nebuchadnezzar. He has a dream. He wants people to be able to tell him what his dream was and what its interpretation is. He wishes he could, that others could do that for him. In fact, he hopes that it will happen, and finally, he expects, you will tell me, or there's going to be hell to pay, basically. Right? What's the problem? What's going on here that's a problem? Mm-hmm. He expected too much. A wish turned into a hope, and a hope turned into an expectation. Something he expected other people to do. And he even got mean and threatened when the expectation wasn't able to be met by the people. I didn't read the whole story to you, but those astrologers and magicians said to the king, the thing that you're asking, no one can answer. No one can tell you what you dreamt about. Only God himself can do that. And it says then that he actually started killing his wise men. He killed his own people because his expectation wasn't being met. That's amazing. So the simple message today is it okay to have wishes? Yeah, sure. Is it okay to hope and envision how maybe brother would get off the couch and help her? Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that. Well, I hope that can happen. But if you let it become something where you say, I expect him to, that's when things can suddenly shift, and now things aren't very happy anymore. We see it in a real life situation. We see it in the story of Daniel. Okay, so I want to move on now and talk with the adults. This is the second week of our Journey program. It's a 6-week program of spiritual growth each year that we do that is built around a theme. And this year's theme is choosing love over ego, or simply love over ego. And it's following the first 6 chapters of the book of Daniel. So last week, Matt set a context for our series this year. And we talked about the fact that all of us want to be loving and wise human beings. And each of us in our own way is working to choose love as a focus in relationships. But there is this part of us that we started to talk about that can get in the way. The human self, or the human ego. And the quality of that ego, when love for the Lord and love for other human beings aren't in the lead and governing our thinking and our intending and our decision-making on a day-to-day basis. And talking about it last week, we started to see that that self can be pretty ugly and pretty stupid. So Emanuel Swedenborg asks and answers the question, what is the human self or the human ego? He writes, what is the human self or the human ego? The human ego or self consists of everything evil and false that gushes out of selfish love and love of the world, when these loves are not rightly prioritized and subordinated to love for the Lord and love of our neighbor. That human ego or self involves people not believing in the Lord or in the Word, but in themselves. And they're imagining that what they do not grasp through sensory evidence or through worldly facts does not exist at all. As a consequence, they have a warped view of everything. Things that are harmful and destructive they see as good, worthwhile, and praiseworthy. And those that are harmful and destructive they see as good. Things that are false they see as true. And those that are true they see as false. Realities they imagine to be nothing. And things that are nothing they imagine to be everything. They call hatred love. Thick darkness, light, death, life, and vice versa. This human self or human ego in itself is hellish and condemned. Pretty big mouthful. So last week we talked about the need, or started to talk about the need to put this human self or ego aside so that the Lord can give us a new self. A new life, a new way, a new will, a will for what is good. New love in our hearts, which would be love for the Lord and love for our fellow human being. We might even say a new ego or a new self. Well, this week we take up the subject of expectations counterbalanced by intentions. And by that we mean expectations of the human ego for what others will do for us and what we will get out of life, versus intentions for what we will give or do out of the storehouse of love that the Lord is building in each one of us. Our subject is anchored in that second chapter of Daniel where King Nebuchadnezzar has a dream. He's troubled by it, and Daniel is able not only to tell him what the dream was, but what the interpretation is. So let's talk about expectations. Think about a little baby. A little baby is sweet and innocent and easily governed most of the time and influenced by parents. A little baby doesn't have any expectations for what other people will do for him or her, or what they will get out of life. There's no what's in it for me reflex that a little baby is functioning from. A little baby feels no urgency to be in control of the situation and no need to be respected or have the attention or praise or approval of other people around her. He's content with the simple things that he's given in life. That's a little baby. But as we grow, that sense of ourselves or that ego grows and develops. And we started to say last week, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We need to have a healthy sense of ourselves as a foundation on which we can stand to reach out to love the Lord and the people around us. If we aren't providing the necessities for life, the necessities of life for ourselves, we have no platform on which to be able to reach out to serve other people of the Lord. So that self is important. But as we grow and develop, or as that self grows and develops, it can tend to turn away from loving the Lord and loving other people to focusing on itself. And that's when the problem arises. And that ego or that self starts to move more and more in the direction of wanting other people to do things for it and to treat it in certain ways. It hopes for those things, and finally it starts to expect them, and, as King Nebuchadnezzar demonstrated, demand them. So look at King Nebuchadnezzar. He has this dream. It's troubling to him, and it's so troubling that he can't sleep. So he commands and demands that his counselors tell him what the dream is and what its interpretation is. Tell me my dream, he says in the story. Make known my dream. If not, I'll cut you in pieces and burn your house with fire. If you do tell me what my dream was, I'll give you gifts and rewards and honor. So tell me my dream. Make it known to me. If you don't, there's but one decree for you. And then he says, I know you're all in collusion against me. That's why he wanted them to tell him what his dream was. He believed they were all against him. So if they could tell him what his dream was, then truly they were in touch with the gods. And when the king's counselors weren't able to tell him what the dream was, he became angry and furious and began killing all the wise men in Babylon. He began killing his own people. That's what happens when wishes become hopes and hopes become expectations on a spiritual level. So let's look at two things in this, in what's happening. The first thing is that what's going on between King Nebuchadnezzar and his counselors is all about himself and about his dream. And similarly, if Nebuchadnezzar is a symbol for our narcissistic ego, it's similar when that egotistical self gets going. It wants everything and everyone to revolve around it. Its dreams, its sight of reality, its own desires and wishes. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to look at how openly commanding and demanding King Nebuchadnezzar becomes when he's frustrated and not getting what he wants. He is the king of one of the biggest empires in the world at that time. There's no one above him, and there are no restraints that are placed on him so that he can do or say whatever he wants. And without any restraints placed on him, look at what ends up bubbling up out of his own ego. And look at what he ends up doing. Look at what he's capable of. So it can be interesting to wonder what lies at the heart of some of the expectations that we place on other people around us. If we could peel back the layers of even one small expectation, what would we discover? You might think, I expect you to do the dishes. I expect you to clean the house. I expect you to take out the trash and you to clean up the yard. I expect you to pay attention to me and show me respect. I expect you to fix my problems, and I expect you to make me feel better when I'm upset. So we might never know what really lies at the heart of those kinds of expectations until we were in a position of uncontested, unrestrained power. And even then, we might not know what lies at the heart of even a single, simple expectation that we place on other people. King Nebuchadnezzar was completely blind to the atrocity that he was expecting of other people and doing. Our selfish, narcissistic ego is blind to its own selfishness. But as Matt was pointing out last week, fortunately, this story is all about Daniel. Nebuchadnezzar takes front stage, but he's not really front stage. Daniel is really front stage, and that's a part of you and me as well, and we all have. Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, counteract and counterbalance the king in this story. Daniel and his friends symbolize the truth of God's word. It's the truth that we can know about the nature of selfishness, and about domination, and about unhealthy forms of control. Daniel and his three friends also symbolize the presence of the Lord working within our conscience. And that conscience is able to make us aware of what's going on inside of us and what's going on inside of the expectations that we may place on other people around us. Daniel was able to make known to the king what was going on in the thoughts of his heart. So look at what Daniel does. Daniel asks the king, Daniel asks the king to give him time so that he might seek the Lord's mercy and learn from the Lord the dream and its interpretation, so that he and his friends will not perish. We don't want that side of us ever to perish. And so that ultimately the king himself will know the thoughts of his mind and the quality of his own heart. There is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, Daniel says to Nebuchadnezzar. And no sooner has Daniel consulted the Lord than the Lord tells Daniel all about the dream and what its interpretation is. Sometimes it can just take us a little bit of time to settle into our connection with the Lord so that we can hear him tell us the next thing that we need to see about ourselves that we can put aside so that we can move on into a better way. So let's look at the dream. The dream was a great image. It was a spectacular, awesome image with a head of fine gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. As the king watched, a stone was cut without hands that struck the image on the feet of iron and clay, broke them in pieces, and then crushed the entire image to powder. And the powder blew away with the wind until not a trace of it could be found. And the stone then that had done that became a great mountain that filled the whole earth. Without going into a whole lot of detail, the progression of materials from head to feet is symbolizing the progression of stages in our lives. Stages of our own development, your development, my development. And the fact that each subsequent material is of lesser quality and value and ultimately lesser ability to hold together demonstrates that it is a declining progression that's being pictured here in this chapter as the self-focused, egotistical side of us gathers strength in our early teenage, young adult years. Gold, the head was made of gold, symbolizes our infancy. There's no selfishness or egotism in a negative sense that we see there. Just sweetness and innocence and love for the Lord and love for other infants around us. And the Lord takes all of that gold, all of that goodness, and he stores it away deep inside of us so that it can become who we are later on in life. One day, hopefully, we will return to those wonderful infant-like states of mind and choose them to be what really is in the lead. The silver is a shift in focus away from love to truth. This is when we begin in our lives to take in matters of knowledge and truth of revelation. Truth is valuable, silver, but it's not as valuable as gold. Truth is something that has a purpose of pointing the way to goodness and love, and it leads us there if we will allow it to. But it isn't the center of the bullseye. The center of our spiritual bullseye is love, and truth leads to that bullseye. A focus on truth is something that invites us to think and reason about things, and either favor or think against love. Truth is something that can be misinterpreted. It can invite squabbles over who's right and who's wrong. It can be used even as a tool to harm other people and to gain control over them. So, in the hands of a destructive ego, it can become a tool for destruction. Bronze. Bronze symbolizes a good charitable attitude, concern for other people that are born of love and truth. But under the influence of a selfish ego or self, it symbolizes an increasing disregard for other people and an increased regard for our own version of the truth, which tends to justify what we want and expect. Iron is strong. The legs were made of iron, the lower parts of the legs. That iron symbolizes strong principles of daily life born of a charitable spirit. It's our willingness to do our work honestly and justly and faithfully, and to behave honestly, justly, and faithfully with anyone that we deal with. But under the influence of that human ego or self, it symbolizes ideas for how to cut corners or cheat other people around us or even get even with them when they cross us or when they offend us, whether that offense is real or perceived. And finally, our feet. Our feet are our walk of life. They're the things that we actually do and say. But under the influence of that more selfish side of us, the ego, the feet of iron and clay are the good things that we do and say for the sake of winning approval and attention and admiration and praise and profit from other people around us. So, the image in the context of this story symbolizes a progressive decline following on after infancy, beginning with infancy, and following on after that as the human self, or the human ego, grows to full strength in us. But we've already said twice now that the saving grace in this story is Daniel. Daniel is that part of you and me that is able to make all of this known to our King Nebuchadnezzar. And the stone in Nebuchadnezzar's dream crushed the image to powder and became a mountain that filled the whole earth. Daniel in this story symbolizes the presence of the Lord in our conscience that's willing to take an honest look at ourselves and see what's going on underneath the expectations that we place on others around us. And what's going on underneath the anger that we feel when other people don't do our bidding. That's what Daniel can do for us. And the stone, which struck the image and crushed it to powder, is the truth about the human self or ego, about the desire to dominate and control, and about the desire to amass wealth and material stuff for its own sake. And one of the things to notice here is that Daniel wasn't there to harm the king. And your conscience isn't there to harm you either. And even though the stone did crush the image to powder, it did so only so that it could become a great mountain and fill the whole earth. The truth about your ego and my ego will deflate that ego. And it will even crush it to powder, but only so that something better can develop in our lives. A mountain of love for the Lord and goodwill toward other people around us. As it says in the chapter, a heavenly kingdom in each one of us which will never be destroyed, but will stand forever. King Nebuchadnezzar had his dream in nighttime hours. It troubled him so much that he couldn't sleep. How often, even down on the most literal level, do we wake up at night wrestling with something or feeling conflicted spiritually and we can't get back to sleep? Sometimes getting really honest with ourselves at a time like that about ourselves can help things settle out and help us get back to sleep. Not always, but sometimes. But the main point is, in this story, in the center of the crosshairs, there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets to us if we will let him. And if we have the willingness and humility to open ourselves up to the truth about ourselves, he will not fail to come to us, and he will show us the next thing that we can usefully work on, the next piece that we can set aside so that something better can come in and a rock can become a mountain. So what can we do about this information this week? Last week, Matt had you notice, simply notice, go through your week and notice when your ego starts to kick in and become active. This week, notice when you are starting to place expectations on others around you. And notice how you feel when and what you're inclined to do or say if those expectations aren't met. Just notice that. Then engage your, quote, Daniel, your conscience, and make decisions about what you will do with those expectations. Replace those expectations, if you can, with good intentions. I've got an expectation. Is it realistic? It's not. Set it aside. What can I do in this situation that can help? What can I intend and do that is the opposite of what my expectation wants? So we read, then the king answered Daniel and said, truly, your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets. And he promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon. And he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king, which means that part of us sitting in the gate of King Nebuchadnezzar, such that nothing comes in and nothing goes out that doesn't first go past our spiritual Daniel. Amen. I invite you to bow your heads for a time of prayer. Lord God in heaven, thank you for the secrets that you show to each one of us, the thoughts of our minds and the thoughts of our hearts, that help us keep tracking with you and harmonizing with you and other people around us. Help that stone in each one of our lives to become a great mountain that fills the earth and lasts forever. Now, Lord, will you hear the silent prayers of our hearts. Rise up for our next song.
Our next song is number 173. This is My Father's Grove, 173.
All
goodwill offering from all of us may be used to help us meet people where they are and walk together with them on pathways of redemption. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with us all. Amen. We'll have our closing song.
Our closing song is number 189. You are the potter. 189. Our postlude is a song of the month that, to me, says, nobody is going to do my praising for me. It's going to be me who stands up and praises the Lord.
Ain't no
demonstration, what I was wishing for is that if she had asked him for help, there was no communication, and there was no, well, we have to learn to ask,
Yeah.
to use that communication.
Thank you so much. That is in my notes to bring it back full circle. What's the solution here, folks? And I just forgot to do that. You're right. Just ask. You know, why not ask? Knowing that he doesn't have to say yes. Knowing that she doesn't have to say yes.
Yeah, but one more thing.
Mhm.
No, I think it would have been really fun if Benjamin was doing the cooking
Oh.
and sister was. We reverse roles because we want to
Yeah.
make things more.
We wanna
gender
either things out.
equal.
Okay, next week I'll do the same. It's the same demonstration again. Thank you for those comments.
It's okay. I was also just wondering, was it just Evelyn's party? Or had Benjamin invited anybody himself, in which case then,
Yeah.
you know.
Right. I purposely staged it carefully to make it so that it wasn't his thing.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. But, yeah, I was trying to create it that way so we could not get the water too muddy. Good point. And I also meant to say, you know, as a caveat for the kids, and, you know, if your parents expect certain things, because that's what we do, if you're part of this household, that's legitimate too. That's a different thing. So it's good these things come out in comment time.
I like the concept of Daniel asking for some time, and I was wondering about, you know, our ego has trouble asking for time, and that Nebuchadnezzar part of us, and what a good thing that can be to just say, I need a break here, or I need some time to talk to the Lord, or if we're in an argument, a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break just can often help to shift things. It's not clear how long a break Daniel asked for, but it was clear it was long enough to get an answer from the Lord.
Thank you. Yeah, and the damage that can happen when someone has the presence of mind to say, I think I need to take a break right now. I don't think I can go further and have this be constructive any longer. And the other person presses them, no, what? And then all hell can break loose. Yeah, you really got to be able to respect that when someone has the wisdom to say, I need to back out for right now. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, my ego is too powerful right now. I'm afraid it's about to get the better of me. And I just want to walk away from that. Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate that. Anything else? Okay. If not, let's go to our announcements. Show of hands, do we have any February anniversaries? February anniversaries? We had no Januaries. No Februaries? Okay. All right. Congratulations to all the February anniversaries out there in the world. All right. Just a reminder that we have, I don't have a copy of our book, but there is a book titled Love Over Ego, which was created specifically for this program. It's very user-friendly. You can follow along week to week with a daily reading for each day and questions that you can journal. And then we have small groups built around that book and our topics for each week. And there is a Sunday women's group for women that's going to meet in the lake lounge, and we can get this couch put back in there. Don't expect it to happen. Be nice. Wishing and hoping. So, women's group at 11 o'clock meets here, 11 to 12. And there's a group, Roxanne Young is leading a group on Monday evenings at either 7 or 7:30. You can speak to Roxanne or me, and we can get you hooked up with that. And there is a Wednesday group that Mac and Jillian are leading. Our associate pastor is leading at his house. Ellen and I are part of that group, and we have a handful of people already meeting on Wednesday evenings at 7. So talk to me if you want to be part of that group. Otherwise, looking to our announcement sheet. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Yes, today was what we call a family service where the kids remained with us here, and there is a take-home project that you can do around the story of Nebuchadnezzar and his statue, okay? Right out there on the Vedanta. Thanks. Keep reminding us of that. We need to make this habitual. I will be back to the Vedanta. Good. Thank you, Beth. Okay, so let's see. I see Spiritual Studies Club is coming up this Friday. We do ways to volunteer, women's programming. It looks like everything else is pretty much further down the line in the future, so I won't highlight those for you. Yes, sir.
Yes, as the treasurer, Keith Parker, just want to let you know this tax statements are outside the foyer. Please stop by and get them today. Save mailing them if you pick them up today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Otherwise, everyone have a great day. Enjoy the Super Bowl. I myself wonder if the Super Bowl didn't already happen between New England and Kansas City, but we'll see what happens today. So have a great day. Have a great Super Bowl. Enjoy your parties.
Go Rams.
Go Rams. Okay, all right. Okay. And we'll see you next week. See you next week.